It's Watch Wrestling with Mike Wellman, yo. Hit the mat hard, let the punches throw. Slams in the drama, your new favorite show. We drop the hot takes, keep the crowd in the flow. Clotheslines, power bombs, suplex the beat. Tune in weekly, we'll take the hot seat. From the ring to the street, the vibe stays elite. Watch Wrestling with Mike, nobody can compete. The face and the heel, we break down the deal. Wrestling fan Kris, the man in the myth. Voice of the people, that's a hypodermic needle. Clotheslines, power bombs, suplex the beat. Tune the beat, tune in weekly. We'll take the hot seat from the ring to the street.
Crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious. What's up, gang? Welcome back to Watch Wrestling with Mike Wellman, the podcast that breaks down the biggest stories in and out of the ring. I am your host. My name is Mike Wellman. Thank you for hitting that play button. We appreciate you here. As always, guys, this is episode 94 of Watch Wrestling with Mike Wellman. We are glad to be here. And when I say we, I mean myself and the voice of the people, the notorious wrestling fan, Kris. What's up, Kris?
What's up, Mike? Good to be here, as always.
Yes, we got a lot to talk about on this episode. Kris, let's get right into it. What would you say is the biggest story in or out of the ring this week?
I think there's a little event where they got to fly halfway across the country coming up. Maybe
halfway across the world.
Oh yeah, the country. Yeah, that's not a big event. Yeah, the world.
We're here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the biggest event of the year for Grand Rapids. This episode of Smackdown.
It's 1994 WWF now, and the biggest show is in Grand Rapids. Yes,
we're going to Poughkeepsie, folks. We are here in Hackensack, New Jersey. It's a big one. Now, it's obviously the fact that WWE has Night of Champions this week in Riyadh. Is that where they are? Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and couldn't have come at a better time to fly, like you said, halfway across the country to Saudi Arabia because, there was something else going on outside of the ring, and for those folks who don't follow global bombs going off, obviously the U.S. this past week bombed some nuclear sites in Iran, essentially on behalf of Israel, because Israel first bombed Iran's nuclear people, and then the U.S. joined in with some bombings, and then Iran obviously responded by bombing a U.S. military base in Qatar, and not the most damage there, but it seems to be a tentative, very fragile, on again, off again, depending on what hour you're listening to this, ceasefire in place. But it was definitely a hairy situation, and it obviously still is. When Iran says that every U.S. citizen in the region is a target. So whether they're just saying that because the United States just bombed the shit out of them, just in general, we have the WWE roster flying over to the Middle East at a time where there's like 3 wars going on in the Middle East, and Iran says U.S. citizens are a target. So, yeah, that's pretty much what has happened. The initial crew, the going over, they ended up, for WWE, the crew, set up crew, they ended up getting stuck in Qatar for a little while, and now it seems like the roster is in flight, en route there already. We'll see how many pictures come out of The Undertaker, with some high-ranking Saudi officials.
That's right.
But, yeah, so interesting situation. So did you think at any point during this process over the past week with all this, nonstop news coming out about our latest forever war, did you ever think that there was a chance that this thing would get canceled, postponed, changed at all?
I mean, in my heart of hearts, I thought it should have, but honestly, I know TKO, I know where they're at, and it was never going to happen. I mean, honestly, I don't want to say they don't really care about the well-being, but maybe that's how I feel. I just knew it wasn't happening. They already got their money. I mean, they don't want to go against, right? Didn't they get paid already for this, right? Up front. So they got to make sure they're doing that. And I don't know. It kind of just, I just didn't think it would ever happen, even if I thought it should have.
I think if things had escalated like people were afraid of, or if they still do, they still might, but if there was more than just this sort of one and done U.S. bombing, and then Iran's response, maybe there would have been some type. I think inevitably you would have had something, because air travel would have been hampered down, even if they made
good point.
Even if they still wanted to go through with it, but they've obviously had the issue in the past with the. The stories that have yet to come out about that time in Saudi Arabia where the roster was on the plane and then there was issues with being able to leave the country. So this isn't their first potential, situation that they've had, but this relationship is super important to WWE with the Saudi government, and not just the WWE, but this whole meshing TKO with the UFC and WWE together, and now they're also starting this Zuffa boxing. They're just heavily wrapped into doing business with Saudi Arabia in so many different ways that obviously it may have impacted their relationship, but I think aside from all of that, I think they got about 50 million reasons why they would want to keep the show going.
Correct.
For Night of Champions, right?
I agree.
So... yeah, so that happened. So the only bomb that we watched go off over the past week was last week on Smackdown. Did you see this, Kris?
Of course.
It was Smackdown, right? I got that right?
Yes.
Let me check my notes here.
I believe so.
Yes, it was Smackdown. Yeah, so Smackdown ends. Let's get into this now. John Cena's pipe bomb on Smackdown, which... I'm more inclined to call it something else besides a pipe bomb, because I think calling this a pipe bomb takes away from the pipe bomb. But so Cena was in a match with Ron the Truth Killings. CM Punk ends up out there. They end up getting the Slim Jim table. John Cena snaps CM Punk through the Slim Jim table, because that's what it's called now. And then all of a sudden you've got Punk laying there, laid out on a table. Cena grabs the mic and he's hitting it like the, like it was a little over the top. Overall, Cena tried to do a not line by line copy of the pipe bomb, but it was structured almost identically. Controversial lines, blurring the kayfabe, breaking the fourth wall, literally acknowledging you're doing it. All the things that Punk did in the pipe bomb so many years ago, 14 years ago, right?
14, yep.
Which is still crazy to me that it was that long ago. And Cena kind of got the internet talking about some of the stuff that he mentioned there. So overall, as sort of a 10, 12 minute piece of business, I mean, I thought it was fine. As far as like a segment on SmackDown.
Yeah.
I was following along with it, interested.
I mean, I don't know how far I want to go into it right now, but I mean, I just don't know what the purpose was, because it was kind of cool, right? Hold on, there's a bug. Hold on.
We're live, pal.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Sorry. All right. John Cena's, that promo was kind of fun. I liked it. You're right. It was a good segment. I thought it's fun. It's cool. Cool callback. I like it. But does it really fit with what John Cena is supposed to be right now? No. What's the purpose of this? I don't understand. Isn't John Cena the heel? Why is he healing on CM Punk? Why is he killing CM Punk with everything he's saying? It just, at least when Punk did it back then, it was like the people were behind Punk. It was like a groundswell. Oh my God, he's saying all this cool stuff. This is amazing. But what's the point of this for Cena is which boggles me.
I think the point was, I mean, if I just had to speculate, their point was to make it more interesting, make Cena, more so than this feud with Punk, make Cena as a heel more interesting. But also, we'll talk about the heel turn, and maybe that's ending, but just this promo, what he did seemingly was actually bury CM Punk, right? Like it wasn't it was a throwback to Punk's promo, but I think in the same way that Cena has actually buried talent, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And I don't mean behind the scenes. I mean just literally on screen. Like when he said to Austin Theory, what did he say to Austin Theory? That I was just like, that's it for Austin Theory.
Oh yeah.
He said like, you're nothing, or no, what he said? He said like, you don't have it, or something. He said something to Austin Theory, and it was kind of like a pretty cutting line in a promo, and it's like, well, you just literally buried him. So going back and forth, getting vicious with the insults, talking about whether it be your family, your career, getting personal, getting deep. It's kind of supposed to make the whole thing more, to attach you more to the emotion of each side. But I literally think that the only thing Cena's been doing with CM Punk here is just burying him in that classic John Cena way, where he's like, I'm going to bury you with a sick burn right now, but it's going to stick to you like glue, you know?
Yes, and that's, I mean, that is not just a John Cena way. That's a classic, like, old veteran way for years. Hulk Hogan. I remember when Kevin Nash called CM Punk what do you call him, a Waffle House line cook. I mean, that's not cool. That's kind of like burying him. And CM Punk is too good to get buried by that. But John Cena, on the other hand, is a little bit more of a high level than Kevin Nash at the time, so he can definitely bury Punk. And he was already burying Punk. We talked about this offline here, but like, I don't know how CM Punk was going to come back from it anyway. Like, Cena's calling Punk a hypocrite for going to Saudi Arabia. Do you want this title or not? You cannot come back from that, because it really is like, oh, actually, it's not a good heel thing where it's like, we're going to get behind Punk. Yeah, it's like, actually, Cena, you're probably right. Like, he is kind of a hypocrite. What a loser. Like, I can't believe he's doing this. Yeah, and that's not good.
Yeah, what Cena is pointing out here with, first, the initial line, you're going to have to follow me to Saudi Arabia. And then he tweeted out what was that picture of, like, it was like, was it The Miz giving Samoa Joe the skull-crushing finale? And everything Cena does is like this meta, you know, like, he might as well have tweeted, like, he'll do a picture, and it's the equivalent of an emoji that means something, you know, because it's like, he'll do a picture of Samoa Joe getting the skull, I don't even know if that's what it was, but it was like the skull-crushing finale. But then you have to know that it was really in reference to a tweet from Punk in 2020 to The Miz that said, go suck a blood money covered dick, you dork, implying that. So at the time, The Miz had said something about, sorry, I didn't change the culture, which was a line Punk had said on the late night show. So The Miz was making fun of CM Punk. And then CM Punk came back with the go suck a blood money covered dick, which is a reference to, obviously, Saudi Arabia and the atrocities that they've committed. It's the Jamal Khashoggi murder, which was the initial reason why John Cena wouldn't go back to Saudi Arabia. That's a real life thing. And then also brought people like Daniel Bryan and others at the time who have since gone back to Saudi Arabia. You know, that was the idea. CM Punk was not with WWE at the time, so he's saying you're taking blood money, whatever he's implying there. So now, fast forward to now, Cena is putting out this picture of The Miz giving Samoa Joe the skull-crushing finale, and he's telling CM Punk, you have to follow me to Saudi Arabia. So you're supposed to know that Punk had this principled stance against going, and Cena is kind of bringing it up and saying you're gonna have to go there, or at least hinting at it. So those of us who want that loose end tied kind of get it. But then it's not necessarily the full story. The story is more what Cena said in the promo, which was that, you know, you're not the voice of the voiceless. You're Mr. TKO now, and how Punk is now kind of the corporate guy instead of the indie righteous sort of principled. He said you're not Punk, you know. So there's that whole messaging of Cena pointing out or calling out CM Punk as a legitimate fraud, right? But like I said, you're going to bury CM Punk and then you're going to leave wrestling. You kind of buried Cody too. It's just you never really hit Cody with that one line that was going to stick to him like the tattoo on his neck, you know? Like, because I mean, the tattoo jokes even, I think Cody's he's able to deflect the tattoo jokes a little bit. No one's going to get, maybe unless Kevin Nash comes out and says something about that tattoo, then it might be over for Cody. But but yeah, I think that Cena is not getting over as a heel, and I think he's kind of taking people down with him. but then in the end, what will happen is Cena will kind of get over, and then there is wreckage there of people that he took down. And it's ironic to me that he would point out people, call people's names out, that it's either you're supposed to know the backstage You're supposed to know when he says, "Hey, Claudio Castagnoli, how you doing? Hey, Matt Cardona. Hey, Nick Nemeth." So am I supposed to know or now gleam from that CM Punk had a hand in holding back the careers of Claudio, Dolph Ziggler, and Zack Ryder in WWE? Or is it a veiled... Because it's obviously the Colt Cabana. Hey, Colt Cabana, how you doing? He can't say, "Hey, Colt Cabana, how you doing?" Because God knows what fucking Punk would start biting him or something if he brings up Colt Cabana.
Yeah,
he would be like Ken Shamrock. He would snap. So so he can't do the literal Colt Cabana reference, but he is bringing up these other folks, and it's just ironic to me that it's an argument about who's burying more people or whatever. But like the argument was that Cena would bury people on his way up or hold them back when he was at the top. And then now Cena is saying, well, Punk, you maybe have done that as well. But it's just odd to me that you're having this meta argument while you're burying Punk, who is ostensibly the top babyface in WWE.
Yeah, sure. Also, I think it's real funny because John Cena was one of the main reasons why Zack Ryder didn't go to another level. So Cena literally was the one who buried Cardona back then. I remember that clearly. So take it easy, John.
Yeah, I mean, but, that couldn't be what he meant by it, right? He wasn't literally trying to bring up guys he held back, was he?
No, that'd be wild. It couldn't be.
I buried this guy. Yeah.
I mean, the thing about Cena is, right, he's not getting over as a heel, and it's because it's his doing, and he knows I don't know if this is true. This is my theory since the beginning. He knows how to get over as a heel, and he's just not doing it because of his endorsements and his sponsorships, and he doesn't want to be a bad guy. He doesn't want to get booed, because even this promo, whatever it bears there, we agree, but if you did a vacuum, it's good. This is a good Cena. This kind of biting Cena is the best one. It's the one that we all want back. It's the one that we were waiting for, but he's not doing it correctly, and he knows. And that's what drives me insane. And when he goes back to being a babyface by SummerSlam, whatever it's going to be, it's not going to be this cool Cena doing promos on the with CM Punk on a table. It's going to be back to the towels and the hats and the high fives and the hustle, loyalty, respect stuff, which you don't even want. So it drives me crazy. I can't stand seeing a John Cena drumstick commercial where he's all happy-go-lucky right after we're supposed to have heel Cena on the TV. It drives me insane. I can't stand it.
Yeah, so it's probably... So I do think that they're kind of monitoring the week-to-week reactions and then kind of tweaking what they do. So I think this is the WWE creative team turning the heel Cena up, like turn the troll Cena up a notch to actually get people's attention, which it did. I'm fine with being your Huckleberry Triple H. I don't feel worked if I go along with whatever is exciting in a given moment with the story. But I think that's what they're doing, is they're saying, let's give Cena a little more of that edge. The same way he got himself over earlier, but he wasn't a heel burying baby faces. He was sort of hero, anti-hero-ish burying the heels or trying to, and yeah, so I think that the heel run, everyone is still cheering him. This is all anybody notices. No matter what you do, you're getting cheered as, like, Cena doesn't do what a good heel does, which is when they notice that they're getting cheered, they'll look at the crowd and be like, don't you cheer me, you people suck, you're all fat, or something much more clever. But they will try to stop those cheers, and change course. Like, so Cena's not really doing that. So I think that we're going back to the good guy side for the end of his run, and I don't think that Punk is permanently buried. I just think that that's how it comes off, and they're taking some steam out of him as a babyface, as a hot merch-selling uber-over babyface, which they only have a few of. But at the same time, if a Cena heel or face turn results also in a Punk heel turn, I think Punk obviously can win everybody back as a heel. He can dig himself out like The Undertaker's hand and buried alive as a heel. He can make everybody forget that he was buried. If anybody can, Punk can. And
yes.
And then seems like we might just be going back to a baby face. Because think about it. If Punk goes to Saudi Arabia, all of a sudden he starts playing dirty tricks. Maybe he says, screw you, like, to the crowd. Well, I don't know what he would have to do. But just to kind of get the little boo-boo, we're going to boo you. It's really easy to cheer John Cena, so it's also pretty easy for Punk to just do one or two things to get people away from his side. Because this isn't like two super baby faces going up against each other, right? at Night of Champions. So I just want to talk about the Cena pipe bomb. Any lines in there that you thought stuck out as interesting?
Let's see. Sorry. I haven't watched it since the weekend.
It was interesting that he was in a match with Ron the Truth Killings, because we obviously, in the way back early days of this podcast, we covered the pipe bomb on the 10-year anniversary, and we talked about how that was from an episode of Raw where, yes, John Cena had just finished a match with R-Truth on the original pipe bomb episode of Raw.
It was a fun promo. I mean, nothing really stood out to me. I mean, calling out those names, we already discussed, calling out those names was weird to me because I did not know why. And then some people I heard were saying like he said Nick Nemeth and Matt Cardona because it was Nick and Matt, like the Young Bucks. That makes no sense to me. I have no idea. I mean, did Punk ever really bury Cesaro? I don't think so. I don't know.
I just don't know about any stories like that.
I mean, Punk did famously like say he didn't want to get Ryan Nemeth off his show in Collision, right? But, that's not really the reference. That's not the same thing. I have no idea. It was just, I don't know. I mean, if we go off the point a little bit, I do think it'll be funny if Punk does turn heel and then does kind of lean into kind of being a hypocrite about going to Saudi Arabia. It'll be great. I mean,
yeah, that makes sense. It's the perfect time to turn heel when they're calling you out as a hypocrite. Say, yeah, guess what? I'm going to kick you in the balls.
Yeah, exactly. And then be like, well, on the champ, well, he can't win. He's obviously not going to win the title, but that would be a great way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to win, so we'll get to that now. I don't think he's going to win. So if you're listening to this afterwards, our predictions are Cena retaining the title. But we'll see what happens, because we'll see what happens. We'll let it play out. How about that? We'll let this one play out.
Yeah, well.
And we won't make any comment on it until the end of CM Punk's career to make sure we let it play out completely. See if this match was good or bad. You know, because when you watch it week to week, and then if you judge everything week to week, well then, then you don't, then you're actually paying attention to what we're doing, and then you might notice when we don't want you to notice, and we might not make a lot of sense, but I'm the game, and boop.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep. Vanilla, chocolate. Nope. So yeah, that was the Cena pipe bomb, and other wares in World Wrestling Entertainment. We got the return of a legend, another individual who's going to have a final run, and hopefully just one final match. We got the return of Goldberg to Monday Night Raw to face off with Gunther. What do you think of Goldberg and Gunther this is going to go down at Saturday night's main event?
Well, I don't like it at all. It's because I don't know. Is it just me, or there's no way Goldberg's going to lose, right?
Oh, you think Goldberg's going to win the belt?
I do, and I think he's going to give up the belt, and they're going to have like some weird thing going on to make a new champion. And if that's the case, I think that's probably why they made Jey Uso lose the title, because that would kind of be real bad. But I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. This reminds me of when Bray Wyatt was a champion and Goldberg beat him. That's what this reminds me of.
I mean, if I was booking this, I would not have Goldberg win this match against Gunther. That is the antithesis of an old wrestler wrestling at all. It's just to beat the young guy and then go away. Well, I think if Goldberg wins, I would go to say he's going to wrestle again. And then maybe it would be like, so he wins this match, and then whether it's one or two matches, it's all short matches. There's no redemption match after this. It would just be this, and then you just lose the belt somehow, some way, get carted off to the ring, something. But
so I think you're right, though. It does seem like that would be weird for him to just win and then not wrestle again, but it just scares me. Goldberg and Gunther should be together. Gunther is too good for this. Get him away.
I mean, in theory, I like the idea of the matchup, but I don't know why we couldn't just have Goldberg versus Braun Breaker, and Braun Breaker just wipes Goldberg off the map, and that's it. I mean, not saying anything. I think that's a good use of Goldberg, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets some offense in, or Braun Breaker can kick out after getting the jackhammer or whatever. But something. Gunther, it's like they've just always they've never gotten away from presenting Goldberg as like he's world champion material whenever he wakes up out of his slumber. Like, he doesn't have to earn anything. He doesn't have to, and it's like that worked in 1997, 1998, a little bit in 2002-ish, whenever he came back for that thing. But once he was gone, it's like they brought him back, and he was always either winning the world championship or losing the world championship. And it's like he can be like everybody else and just be too old to be good enough for the world championship, but still a marquee name that you can have a match with to put somebody over who's younger and not have to talk yourself into having one of the best wrestlers on your roster lose to this guy.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you a little secret, exclusive on this podcast. I haven't given a shit about Bill Goldberg since 2002. And I hate when he comes back. I do. It's even the Brock Lesnar stuff, which is pretty cool. Lesnar had, I kind of like their stuff later, not the WrestleMania stuff, but later on in their careers. That's fine, but I could have went without it. Who cares? And I'm glad it's a retirement match. Sorry, Goldberg. I'm glad you're going to be gone.
I'll tell you something on this podcast. I haven't given a shit about Goldberg since that Monday Night Raw and the finger poke of doom when he got arrested talking to those police officers, because he told those police officers straight up it was going to take every taser and gun they've got on them to arrest him. He said that and then he let them arrest him.
That's great. I mean,
what about the bullets, Bill? You didn't wait for them to shoot at you. You went into custody.
Ugh.
And then the cops randomly come flying in a normal car, driving Goldberg back to the arena later that night. But anyway, I don't think Goldberg should win. I think it's an interesting idea, though, that I could see them having Goldberg win. But what I want to talk about is, we know Goldberg was always only capable of a really kind of like a basic match, a few high spots, and we're done. But is he even capable of that now? Because my man looked out of breath on Raw. You know what I mean?
He better not. I mean, I read something where he says he doesn't care how hurt he gets in his final match, but if he tries to jackhammer Gunther, he's gonna tear every muscle on like the left side of his body. So,
well, I mean,
don't do it, Bill.
That's fine that he doesn't care if he gets injured in the match, but I'm saying, like, are we at the point of like the Undertaker that tag team match where you can't even lift the guy up? You're endangering people. Like, are we that reckless here? Like, do we think Goldberg is? I mean, maybe not even putting people in danger, but just botching a lot, having a lot of botches because you can't lift Gunther, especially as time goes on, as the minutes go on in this match. You're going to be able to pick up Gunther? Come on.
No, I think you're probably right. I'd be very nervous. I mean, the spear, you can just do the spear. I get that. That's totally fine.
His shoulder, if he spears Gunther, his shoulder is going to peel off his body like the most tender piece of chicken. It's going to be like slow cooked pork. Just a spear.
Slow cooked pork shoulder. That's it.
Goldberg is just slow cooked meat. No, I mean, I hope he has a good match. I'm not rooting against him.
No,
but I am actually rooting against him because he cannot keep his goddamn mouth shut about Bret Hart, I feel like. And I know people come to him with the Bret Hart stuff, but if this guy knows how to say the right thing and then completely ruin it with one last sentence, it's like, I feel really bad about what I did to Bret Hart. Yeah, but he's got to fucking get over it. It's like, no, or it was a million years ago. It's like, dude, do you think Bret Hart feels like him having all those strokes or stroke was a million years ago? For you to say that, he just ends up sticking his fucking foot in his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just accept it, man. Like, you did it. Just people hate you for it, or they don't. You could think it was a million years ago, but don't. No. Once you start saying like, oh, it was a million years ago and Bret should get over it, nobody. You just ensured that we'll never get over it.
No. Yeah. I mean, I heard that story from Bret Hart. I don't remember the exact details. It was a while ago, but when he was telling that story about when he was on the bike afterwards and he just kind of like had to stop riding his bike and then like passed out or something like in the middle of the street because of that. His head was so messed up from that kick. Like, Gotta give that guy. I mean, that's very serious. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, no, it's just, and people have done things that are more reckless for sure. You've gotten, there have been a lot of injuries and stuff. People get injured in wrestling all the time, but you've got to have that humility, and he just does not. And you're like the last guy to get away with this. This guy who had this super push out of nowhere, never really learned how to wrestle, and then you're gonna say like, tough, sorry, get over it when you injure the most beloved wrestler of all time. Sorry. Or not even injure, when you retire and end the career and cause brain injury basically to the most beloved wrestler of all time. Sorry, bud. But anyways, yeah, Goldberg's back. I mean, hopefully he has a good match against Gunther.
I do get the idea of Saturday Night's Main Event trying to bring a big name like that on, having a retirement match for Goldberg. I do get it. And I don't want to sound like Vince Russo, but it is just a championship. Like, even if Gunther does lose it, whatever. It's whatever. But I mean, I hope not.
It's a belt.
It's just a strap.
It's a world belt.
What did he call it? It's just tin.
All right, so keeping on the WWE side of things, there are so many injuries in WWE right now, Chris. Are you aware of how many people are injured just in the past few weeks? The latest one, well, maybe not the latest, but the first one I'm going to talk about is Dom Mysterio. He's got some type of rib injury. He had a match for Night of Champions with AJ Styles that is now off. Just quietly, Dom's injured. You know, Intercontinental Champ.
That hurts because he was really hitting his like peak of like belovedness too. And him as an Intercontinental Champion would have been great. I mean, it is great. And him going around and defending it is great. So hopefully it's not going to keep him out for too long.
Yeah, so then we have Liv Morgan, who, man, has she ever been in a bigger spot than right before she got injured? You know, Women's Tag Team Champion, Liv Morgan. Was it a shoulder dislocation, something like that? Or am I
think it was, yeah. I think that was it, yeah.
So they just stopped her match. And when she got injured, so she's out. Liv Morgan is now out. She's like more longer term, I think, than Dom. And so I think they're saying 6 months for Liv, right? So Liv Morgan, it's like, well, sorry to anybody else who wanted to win the Royal Rumble. That's how I would look at that.
Yes.
Yeah. Surprise return.
Good call. Yep.
In the Royal Rumble. But so she was obviously the Women's Tag Team Champion. She was in this initially in the Queen of the Ring tournament. There was who was she supposed to kind of be booked up with for Evolution? Was it the Bellas or Nikki Bella? Were they going to do they were like working towards a Nikki Bella program?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So that was going to be a big match. So Liv is injured. Zoe Stark is also injured. But
that's a tough one.
She's been out for a while.
Of course, Kevin Owens.
Her leg, right?
And I think Zoe Stark like busted up her knee so bad.
Yeah, that was like a month ago though. But still, she's out.
That's long term, yeah.
Who else is injured?
KO, poor guy.
Kevin Owens. He is potentially, his career could be over. He's even said that because he has a neck injury that requires surgery. Chad Gable. This is who I was thinking of. Chad Gable, a.k.a. El Grande Americano. Spoiler. He gets his arm broken by Penta on Raw. Jeez, Penta. Talk about injuring people. No. They wrote him off TV by having Penta snap his arm backstage. This is another guy who, he's playing two characters on the show, so he's injured. Yep. Was his a shoulder injury as well? Or elbow?
No, I don't even remember. I feel like it was elbow. I don't remember, though. Let's see.
Oh, somebody on Reddit has a list of injured talent. Drew McIntyre, he's injured? Obviously, I know that Tonga Loa hasn't been seen since the War Games. Am I right?
Yeah, I haven't seen him in so long. Yeah, Chad Gable's a shoulder, yes.
Tama Tonga also was injured there. Ilya Dragunov, I thought he was coming back soon.
I thought he was coming back too, but I think he's ready to go.
Something's up with Otis as well. Rey Mysterio's injured, but I don't know when he's coming back. Big E is on this list. Who made this list? Come on. But yeah,
Drew McIntyre had that like head. I don't know if he got Lindsay Lohan, but remember when he like fell on his head in that? Oh man, off in the through the table against Damian Priest. Woo.
So a lot of people, WWE having to reshuffle some big stories here. Obviously with Dom, they kind of just cancel that match with AJ Styles. But on the women's side of things, because they've got the pay-per-view coming up with Liv Morgan, this is a big loss for them. And Chad Gable obviously was in a prominent position with all of the new like lucha storylines going on and him being a part of all those. So yeah, so we'll see what WWE does next, especially with Liv Morgan, because we've seen Raquel Rodriguez is still the women's tag team champion, and now she has a new buddy in Roxanne, who they could, I mean, to me, that kind of makes sense to do with the women's tag team titles, is to let Roxanne come in.
Yeah.
You know, because whatever tag team match that they were going to have for Liv and Raquel, if they were going to have a big tag team match at the upcoming Evolution show, they can still do it with Roxanne. But then the problem is they may have had a nice match lined up for Roxanne, a singles match. So.
Yeah. I mean, she does kind of fit in, because she was kind of in that, just say kind of adjacent storyline anyway, so makes sense.
Yeah, she was at least part of the group or kind of in the same sphere. And then they don't have to do some convoluted tournament. I mean, realistically, when these injuries happen, you can kind of make whatever decision you need to. Like one time, Kurt Angle was a part of the Shield, you know, because people were sick. So whether you decide to do kind of a one-night only thing if your card is completely decimated, or for instance, if everybody gets stuck on a plane in Saudi Arabia, you can have a great match with Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, right?
Yes.
On SmackDown. But you could do whatever. You could say, well, we're not going to have a tournament because we have a bunch of other stuff going on, so we're just going to pick these two teams, and I decree that. And it's like, that's fine. You know, you can fill holes as needed. But we'll see what they do. I'm curious to see what they do, because, like I said, well, that last round of cuts, they got rid of about one half of each women's tag team. I felt like.
I think that, yeah, I know.
They decided all those women were the Marty Jannetty. And got rid of them. But yeah. So, any other WWE business that we want to talk about before we move over to the AEW side? Oh, let's talk about Mr. Iguana. Folks, since we have last done a show, we have a new favorite wrestler here at Watch Wrestling with Mike Wellman, folks. Hashtag new favorite wrestler, Mr. Iguana. Have you seen this guy, Chris? Have you seen this Mr. Iguana? Let me look on my phone, and the other, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, when I decided to sit down and watch the Worlds Collide event during the day, a couple Saturdays ago. Let me see what time it was when I texted wrestling fan Kris, just so we all know that I wasn't jumping on any bandwagon. I text wrestling fan Kris quite a bit of wrestling stuff, so I have to scroll back quite a bit. Okay, here we go. I got the memes of Mr. Iguana, so we're getting there. Okay. So it was Saturday. It was 6:04 p.m. that day. Just texted him. Mr. Iguana from AAA is pretty good. Done. Right there. Proof. Evidence.
That's all you said. Yep. But you knew.
6:04 p.m. I was on the bandwagon that day. No, I mean, I'll tell you my experience discovering Mr. Iguana, because this is one of my favorite things, and I always say this. As someone who has watched wrestling in such a tortured way for so long, there's very little that is new, right? So I always like when I discover something new in wrestling, a new person. It's one thing to watch all these people come up on the indie scene, on the Evolve, on the LFG, on the NXT. When you're watching people develop and you watch them go from this clunky beginner to a savvy veteran and all this stuff, that's one thing. But when you just, for the first time you see a character or a show or any aspect of wrestling, for it to be this fully fleshed out character and just complete presentation that this person has been working on for like 16 years as Mr. Iguana. It was great, I thought. So they come out, the three of them. It was Mr. Iguana, Octagon Jr., and El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr., I think, for that match. And they have a fun, and I'm just like, the first guy I see is this Mr. Iguana. And I'm like, who is this dude? And, you know, you're like, okay, whatever, these guys, I don't really know that many of the wrestlers in AAA or their rich histories and stuff. Like, I don't really follow the Mexican indie scene, you know, whatever that is. So these guys come out, and once we got to La Yesca in the match, I was sold. This guy's work with this Iguana La Yesca was amazing. Because you want to know, like, because you've seen stupid stuff in wrestling, you want to know what are the rules here. Is this thing a sentient thing? Is it fake? Is it a toy? Is it real? Like, what am I supposed to suspend my disbelief to think about this prop creature character thing? Like remember Perry Saturn had Moppy?
Yes, of course.
Chavo Guerrero had Pepe, the horse.
Yes.
And Al Snow had Head and all this other stuff. So it's like, you want to know what are the rules here? And it was just so perfect. So La Yesca is a puppet and a stuffed animal. So he could get into the mouth, and then La Yesca can do stuff. There was one scene where Dom and Liv were there ringside. They get in the ring, start attacking. He's going after. He like almost bites Liv Morgan with La Yesca, and she's like, doesn't know how to react to La Yesca. And then he throws the iguana, lands right on his shoulder. I mean, this guy was so captivating right away. And then, like I said, about 6 o'clock, I texted Kris, this guy's pretty good. And and then it was off to the races from there. We had the Mr. Iguana T-shirt, which I'm not wearing right now. It's like, Mr. Iguana. No, didn't buy one. I resisted the urge, but it's a very simple T-shirt design. But no, it was cool to see a new character, like I said, that's fully developed. This dude knows what he's doing. He knows the reaction he wants to get, and he's just great. So naturally, he's like the most polarizing person in wrestling now, because he got to go to Money in the Bank that night, got a huge pop in the crowd. I think that was a signifier. And then he goes to NXT, gets another big pop. Now he's all, you know, kind of waiting to see, like, where is he going to pop up on the main roster, probably, or what. But naturally, he's become a polarizing figure because in wrestling, the biggest crime you can commit is getting yourself over.
That's correct.
And that is exactly what he did. What did this dude do other than get himself over in a wrestling, by just coming out and wrestling? Nothing.
Yeah, that's all he did.
And it's amazing. And there's all these haters and this stuff like, oh, he's got a little backstage heat because he was at NXT bragging about how he's going to go to the main roster. So the fuck what? Keep lifting weights while this dude goes sells all the T-shirts. Come on. You're just mad because he's selling T-shirts and there's a million memes about him. You know?
Exactly.
Do better.
Exactly.
Everybody. Be like Mr. Iguana. Do better.
That's right.
No, I mean, I just think it's so obvious that it's like, well, yeah, it does suck when somebody shows up on the scene and starts selling T-shirts when you've probably had 25, 30 T-shirts that didn't sell, you know? I get it. But yeah, not his fault. So I just wanted to talk about Mr. Iguana captivating wrestling fans around the world. And La Yesca, the iguana. All right, so let's move on down to some AEW stuff. And I think right off the bat, the first thing I got to say about AEW is that Kota Ibushi is back, and he is wrestling Kazuchika Okada on Dynamite next week. I am so pumped for that.
Yes, unbelievable.
And he looked in much better physical shape than he had last time around. We saw him.
Yes. I'm glad. Hopefully he took some time off. I'm not as locked in Japan as I once was, so hopefully he had some time off.
So one thing I want to talk about with AEW right now, because we've got this, we're going into All In Texas, where we've got Hangman Page going to challenge Jon Moxley for the AEW Championship and hopefully win it back for all of us. And there's so much going on right now in AEW that I'm going to try to sort through it. So on the heel side, we've got these groups. We've got the Death Riders that are led by Jon Moxley. You've got the Don Callis family that is led by Don Callis. And you've also got the Elite, which is the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, who is just MIA, and Okada. You know, that was the last time, you know, we saw them together anyway. And now you have the Young Bucks who have sided with Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, but they're not a part of the Death Riders. And then you have Okada, who has now sided with the Don Callis family, which consists of almost all of the former faction Chaos, which was a babyface group. So you've got now Okada and Roppongi Vice, Rocky and Trent. So it's basically Chaos, which in AEW evolved into the Best Friends and then the larger group of the Best Friends. So now is Orange Cassidy part of the Don Callis family? No.
No.
So you've got Okada going over to align with the Don Callis family, which is like Lance Archer, Konosuke Takeshita, like I said, Rocky, Trent, and some other folks. Probably
Brian Cage, right?
Oh, is Brian Cage still in the group?
I think so.
And but yeah, we got Rocky and Trent coming out. They've got a new RPG Vice theme song where it sounded like Rocky was still rapping over it a little bit. So I wonder if they rap about eating McDonald's at Japanese McDonald's at 3 a.m. on that.
Interesting.
One.
Sounds good.
But yeah, so we got a little face off on Dynamite between Okada and Takeshita, and I feel like it's all Okada in AEW now. We've got the big match coming up, Kenny Omega versus Okada. We've got a match on Dynamite, Okada versus Ibushi. These are dream matches. And then we're getting this kind of tension building and face-offs between Takeshita and Okada. So it's just like AEW is just pulling out the big weapon, Okada, for everything.
I mean, this started off as a joke many years ago about my love for Okada, but I've grown to actually love Okada, so I'm very excited about all of these things.
Yeah, and so I'm definitely paying attention to all of this stuff. I do think it was funny, the interworkings of these heel groups where there are all the heels just kind of like, because now it's just the locker room just empties out all the time now, because now you've got on the babyface side, you've got the Ops, which, come on, is this not the coolest and most badass trio ever thought up? Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Shibata?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ.
I love them. Yeah, I know.
This is like the most badass group of dudes ever assembled. So they're coming out all the time and kind of going at it with the Death Riders, who are kind of having their own issues as well right now, because you've got Wheeler Yuta and Kris Statlander, again, the best friends. Statlander, Yuta, they were kind of a part of that crew. And then now you got Jon Moxley, like, telling Kris Statlander, like, don't let anybody tell you who you are. It's like, aren't you trying to tell everybody who they are?
Yes.
But not Kris Statlander.
I'm thinking, and we both love Jon Moxley on this cast and in the world, but this is looking like it's gonna maybe lead to the breakup of the Death Riders. Thank you. I can't wait.
Yeah, and I think we figured it out when we said that it's not Moxley that is the boring aspect of this. It's the rest of the group.
Mm-hmm.
It's the constant beatdowns by Claudio and Wheeler Yuta, and it's just, we get it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for Moxley versus Hangman, and I will say, I think Moxley's point of his motivation is finally coming across. Whether the Death Riders are exciting or not, I think that this point Moxley's trying to drive home. I think we're actually starting to understand his motivation and kind of like the method to his madness here. So, you know, so that's coming through. So I'm understanding that, and I'm on board with it, and I get it. And I just think that they're almost making it too obvious that Hangman's going to beat him, you know?
Yeah. But
then it's like, well, what do you do? I don't know.
I don't think, sometimes I don't, Not every time, but a lot of times I don't really mind if it's too obvious. If it's obvious, that's fine. It's cool.
But then
Don't swerve, just swerve. If you have a plan, that's fine. But don't just swerve because everyone expects it, okay? That's why Lex Luger never got the world title, and I'm hurt still to this day, okay? In 1995, or whatever it was, 94.
yeah, but then it makes you think maybe because it's so obvious, they might keep running with Moxley.
Exactly. I mean, it's okay, I guess. If Mox, like you said, Mox is being a little more clear now, and if he knows where he's going a little more with the character and stuff, maybe the Death Riders kind of leave him, and it's just he can be alone, or maybe just a few of them. Okay, I'm okay with it.
So, another match that's being set up for All In. Do you think we're getting? Is it Ospreay and Swerve teaming up against the Young Bucks?
I do think so. Yes.
That's going to be interesting. Ospreay and Swerve, when you could have easily just done a match between them.
Yeah. They're going to save that for something else, right? Probably like what though? I don't know. That's weird. You're right.
All I know is that whenever I see Blake Christian in the ring in AEW, I know the result of the match. Poor Blake Christian.
Yes.
I mean, you got all these guys, and there's one guy, he comes out, who's taking the L. It's Blake Christian.
Sorry, Blake. He's the Heath Slater of AEW, all right?
Like, you could book Blake Christian versus Stokely Hathaway. I don't know. I don't know who'd win. So, what other matches are set for All In? Well, we have Tony Storm, who is... can we swear on this show?
It's your show. It's your show, pal.
Can we swear here? Because Tony Storm can swear on national television. She says... I mean, this chick talks about... I mean, some of the stuff she says, it's like, not for children. She says,
yeah.
She says, I'm not some other motherfucker. Like, okay.
You can swear when you're timeless, okay?
It's true. So, Tony Storm, just amazing as always, as timeless Tony Storm, coming out here dressed like Carmen Sandiego in Mexico.
That's right.
Mercedes now has the CMLL Women's Championship, so she has like 6 championships between the TNT title, the Rev Pro Women's title, the now CMLL Women's title. She also has some other belts to hold up her pants. But yeah, so we've got Mercedes, Tony Storm. This is great. I think both of these two are kind of like hitting like high levels, with Tony Storm pulling out all the stops, because let's face it, she is timeless Tony Storm. She's the face of the women's division, right? She's been having, her story has been one of the main stories in all of AEW over the past few years. And now you have Mercedes, who they've kept these two kind of away from each other, but she's coming in and she is undefeated everywhere she goes. So, it's like who's the real who's really at the top of the women's division in AEW, and I think they're both making their case for why in their own lane and in their own way it has been them, and why it's like a collision course between the two, right? And they've had several weeks really to build from that first face-off they had after Mercedes won the Owen Hart Cup tournament finals. And yeah, I think this is going to be a great match, and wouldn't surprise me if this was another one of the best women's matches in AEW between Tony Storm and Mercedes.
It's absolutely going to be a great match, and I'm looking forward to Mercedes. I think is going to win, and I think she's better when she's the champion and everyone's chasing her. I think she's very, very good at that. And I also can't wait to see what's going to happen to Tony Storm after she loses this title. Remember last time she went into that old Tony Storm acting gig? Great. I hope they have a plan for her after this, because I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, she walked all the way home back to Australia, I think.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they have a lot more that they can do with Toni Storm. They have proven that like she is capable of amazing stuff on the mic and with these vignettes and scenes and stuff. So I don't think that they should, she loses, exactly, have her have some type of tortured redemption story arc afterwards. Don't just kind of like end it because we don't want it to get old or anything. It's like there's a lot more you can do with Toni Storm with other people on the roster, just even if it's just chasing Mercedes again. But yeah, I think Mercedes as a heel champion, you could always make her give up the TNT title if she wins the Women's World Championship.
They probably will.
It is interesting, though, because everybody's complaining about Mercedes winning every match, and I don't really have an issue with it at all, because what would really make her this Hulk Hogan is if she never wants to lose any of those belts, right? Or if it's when it's time to lose, you don't want to lose. You don't want to do the other half of your job, right?
Yes.
And it'll be interesting to see, like, how does she go as this, world-beating, belt-collecting, best in the world to then, I lost the CMLL title, to Xerxes or whoever, or I lost, I lost the Rev Pro title. Shoot. Like, it's kind of going to be like, does she just give them up or what? But I think she is, I don't think she's like burying anybody or holding anybody back or, I think she's trying to work with all of these women around the world and kind of elevate women's wrestling. And I think that her as a heel champion will give a lot of women on the roster opportunities to, go after the title. Maybe someone like Willow. Mercedes has already had a match with Billy Starks. But, just tons of options with Mercedes as the champ, and Toni Storm can always be doing her own thing, whether it's feuding with someone else or, like I said, just chasing the title to get back to Mercedes and then having another big match later on down the line somewhere.
And then, I also don't think that Mercedes is burying anyone either, and I'm sorry to everyone, but winning gets you over and makes you important. And like you said, as long as you don't refuse to lose after you become important, you're good.
Exactly. As long as you don't decide that your creative control consists of the only thing I'm doing today is winning the championship.
Yeah, as long as you don't say, she's not tan enough, brother, he can't be the champion. I think you're good.
He's not tan, and he said Mamacita for some reason into the microphone after the match, so we're not doing it. He was just off his game today. Steve. But, and then, I don't know, does the Hurt Syndicate already have a match, or did they announce that, or... they were called out by Jet Speed, which is Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey. But I really like MJF in the Hurt Business. I like that he's trying to cosplay as MVP. I think that's hilarious.
It's great.
I think MJF should do one where it's like he tries to wrestle because he's doing the moves too for MVP. Do MVP in one match, come out again as like old Shelton Benjamin from like the World's Greatest Tag Team. Do another match where you're like Bobby Lashley, where you're just like doing the poses. It'd be so funny.
I think he's gonna do that. That's actually probably what he's gonna do. That's pretty nice.
MJF, did you know? I'm pretty sure he's playing Happy Gilmore's son in the new Happy Gilmore movie. Adam Sandler's son.
I knew he was in it, and I also heard that I didn't really know, though, because there's no MJF clips on the Raw on Netflix, because how dare you try to put an AEW wrestler on my Raw?
Yeah, you're living in that WWE bubble. That's why they got you. Right. They don't want you to know who MJF is.
I'll believe it when I see it, because I also thought that Lance Von Erich was going to be a big old role, and I just saw him in the background in one shot of the Iron Claw, so...
Yeah, he got cut. Speaking Lions got cut. So at AEW All In, there's going to be 2 Casino Gauntlet matches. So I don't remember how the Casino Gauntlet match works. I understand the concept. Is it like the Casino Battle Royal? That much I understand. But in the Gauntlet, is there like 4 at a time? Is that what it is?
Good question. I don't remember either. That's a
'Cause
great.
obviously in the Battle Royal, or is it the Battle Royal is 4 at a time? And then, I don't know. But they're going to have 2 of these gauntlet matches at All In Texas.
Yes. It is intervals. And then it's by submission or pinfall. Yes.
So the last thing I want to talk about here is this news of a match that we thought was going to happen at AEW All In Texas, and it seems based on the internet rumor mill that it's not, and that is a match between FTR and Cope and Christian Cage, right? We all thought that they were gonna somehow magically team back up and take on FTR because FTR was part of Rated FTR with Cope, and then they turned on poor Cope, and no one came out to save him. So FTR are bad guys now. Both FTR bald and FTR hair are now heels.
Yes.
And the rumor is that it's Christian who wanted to finish out the storyline with the Patriarchy and Nick Wayne before just teaming up with Adam Copeland. Not sure how I feel about this.
I would rather have the match, but I respect Christian for wanting to keep storyline and fill it and finish it out.
Yeah, so now I feel like they're not even on TV every week, though, the Patriarchy with Christian and
Good point, yeah.
young Nick Wayne. But I almost hope then, at least then, maybe how long are they going to keep Christian with Nick Wayne? Because I also saw a rumor that they were going to make like father and son tag team titles. Have you seen that one?
No, but okay.
Yeah, AEW.
What?
This is a rumor, and I apologize, I don't have it pulled up to know where I heard this. So it could have been from a very reputable source, or it could have been from a fourth grader. I don't know. But the rumor that I read was that AEW is going to have like father-son tag team championships, and that Christian Cage would hold them with his son Nick Wayne.
Okay.
Yeah, so that doesn't tell me that they would be putting an end to that anytime soon. But I don't know how we asked how you possibly could turn Christian heel, and really the only way you could have, the simplest way to turn Christian heel in AEW was one of those times or another time where Copeland is getting the crap kicked out of him in the ring, extended beatdown. You're like, who's gonna save him? Who's gonna save him? Christian comes to the, or it seems like Christian's about to continue to beat him down and then does the quick turn and saves his friend. No questions asked, right? Like, he can still be this giant a-hole. He can still be the biggest dick in the world, but he's just now, he decided to help his friend for right now. And then now they're together for some reason for one match or what have you. But yeah, it would leave the Patriarchy and the whole Nick Wayne thing kind of just out there in the breeze. So I think that they should have a match though with Christian and Nick Wayne, and then obviously Christian would destroy Nick Wayne and not let him get any good moves in, and show him who the real man is. But that's to me how you would end that. And yeah, I don't really know how they could do that. I think they just kind of had this idea of like, let's have all of our great stories, all of our biggest possible matchups happen at All In, but each story wasn't really ready to go to that. You know, like Omega and Okada, you can kind of just have them face off. And then there we go. We just started a good new story. But with Christian, he's like the biggest heel in the world. So it's hard to just team him back up with good old Adam Copeland.
Plus, maybe they're actually going to listen and think like some of the AEW pay-per-views don't need to be like 14 matches and everything's just on a high. Maybe you could save one for another one. I don't know. Yeah,
I think I think 3 hours to me is a good pay-per-view time. Good length.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because when we were watching what pay-per-view was that? Double or Nothing the other week?
Double or Nothing, yeah.
They have to have these matches where they have a really good match, and then you can't just you can try to have just great 35-minute matches back to back to back, but it's going to get lost in the shuffle, and people aren't going to appreciate it as much as if you have like some great one-on-one match that goes 35 minutes. Then the next match, maybe it's an 8-man tag, a 6-man tag. Not saying that would be a bad match, but just something where the people aren't so focused on the immediate building drama, But I also felt like they could cut some of those matches out, because then I was like, oh my God, this great match just happened, and now I got to go through this 6-man match with what was I calling this group? The Dadagon. No, the Dadagon. Yeah. Do you know about this group in AEW, the Dadagon? It's like Comic-Con, but it's the Dadagon. You ever heard of them?
No, who they?
Well, it's the Paragon, but
the Paragon,
the font on their Titantron looks like it says Dadacon. And with these Adam Cole groups these days, you never know what they're going to be named.
Yeah.
So I was certain for about 2 weeks that they were called the Dadacon. Maybe they're being led by Dada 5000. Is he still alive? I don't know.
A lot of interesting questions today on the pod.
I don't know. Maybe we should get Dada 5000 on and ask him. This is where I read it. Cage Side Seats. Where do they have it from? Father-son tag titles. This was from bodyslam.net. There you go. So not a fourth grader. Bodyslam.net. Intergenerational tag titles that they've already had made and that have been on the shelf. Teams like Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, Billy Gunn and Anthony Bowens, and the father and son team, folks, Ricky and Kerry Morton.
Oh, God.
That's who should have the first run.
Absolutely.
Ricky Morton. Who is more deserving to hold a championship in wrestling than Ricky Morton? So, yeah, folks, speaking of Ricky Morton, that's one person that on our last episode we did where we talked about the greatest of all time. That's one honorable mention that I felt like we should have name dropped, was Ricky Morton as one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
That's great.
For sure. I wanted to do a whole, like a 20-person battle royal of honorable mentions, but I just forgot to, because we were just running and gunning so quick on the pod when we recorded that one. But yeah, go back and check out our last episode where wrestling fan Kris and I debated some of the most popular names in the conversation for the greatest pro wrestler of all time. Big topics, and we analyzed about 10 or so wrestlers and ultimately formed a conclusion on who we think is the best wrestler of all time. Spoiler, it's Bryan Danielson. Go back and watch the podcast, and we should have talked about Kerry Morton. Not Ricky Morton.
Ricky Morton. No, not Kerry Morton. Got it.
All right, folks. Thanks for sticking with us. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Find us on social media, on Threads, Watch Wrestling Podcast, Instagram, Watch Wrestling Podcast, at W Wrestling Pod on X, Facebook, Watch Wrestling Pod, YouTube.com/@Watch Wrestling Pod. What does this button do? All right, I'm here with wrestling fan Kris on the pod. Say hi, Kris.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on the pod, man.
For sure.
So why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and why anybody would maybe care about what you have to say?
Okay, I'm a longtime fan of pro wrestling, and you asked me to do a podcast with you about...
Yeah, man. So it says here you're a big fan of early 2000s Smackdown and that whole era. Why don't you tell the folks at home what was so special about that era of wrestling?
Well, Paul Heyman was the head writer of Smackdown at the time, and he really pushed a lot of guys like Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio.
Awesome, man. I just Googled that, and yeah, it really was the best. Well, anyway, man, why don't you tell people where they can learn more about this podcast that you do?
Well, this whole show was your idea. You said you needed someone who has a vast knowledge of wrestling to co-host your podcast covering the biggest stories in and out of the ring. I reluctantly agreed when you promised.
All right, man. Why don't you tell people where they can find the pod, man?
Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and all the social media accounts that you run. at W Wrestling Pod on X, Watch Wrestling Podcast on Instagram and Threads.
All right, man. Thanks again for coming on the pod. All right, everyone. Wrestling fan Kris from Watch Wrestling with Mike Wellman, man. Go check it out.
I'm not the biggest fan of sports entertainment, but that was pretty entertaining.